Welcome back to another podcast here. This is episode number 12, right?
13.
13. This will be episode number 13. Guys, here on the AAC Podcast, you got me, Roy Castillo. To my left, Darren Matheson here. And I got a very exciting guest that I get to bring in here. He's someone that I've been watching his career pretty closely for a while. He's been working with my former mentor, Patrick Bet-David, had been at some of his live events. My man Darren over here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on the show, guys. Man, all-American K9, right?
Yes, sir.
Come on, man. I got with no better place to be, man. And before we go any further, I just want to say congratulations to the both of you all. You all embodied the American dream by getting up, doing something about it. We were promised the opportunity, not entitlement. So I'm excited for the podcast.
Dude, that is so right, man. I like that intro on it, the opportunity part.
So take notes, further guests. We like this. It makes us feel much better.
No, you're right, though. It's about an opportunity, right? Nothing's guaranteed. And
that's right.
You got to go grind it out.
Yes, sir.
And I see that you are all about that.
No, most definitely, man. Anything else is uncivilized.
Well, Darren, when I reached out to you, obviously, first of all, how I first met you, we really didn't actually get to meet me, but I knew of you because you came to an event out in West Palm at the Breakers. We both agree that it's probably one of the best hotels we've ever stayed at.
Definitely.
It was at a sales leadership summit, and then from there, you've been making connections all over that keep hearing your name. With some of my clients that I've worked with, including within the organization of PHP. You recently did or helped publish Matt Sapala's book, Millionaire.
Faith Made Millionaire.
Yeah, Faith
Made Millionaire. Yeah.
Matt Sapala.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So that was an awesome experience. And like you said, we met in Palm Beach at Breakers with a great experience. And by the way, for those who are listening to this, it was actually during COVID. So that was a situation where you had some fanatics or whatnot who were willing to take their mask off and be willing to save America by saving their business first.
Yeah.
So we wasn't waiting on Washington, D.C. or anybody else to come and protect us. So we wanted to make sure that we continue to learn and grow and get with great minds just like you gentlemen. And we were able to do that. And then I just look at fast forward now, the relationships that were built. I'm actually going to a podcast lunch for another gentleman that I met at SLS at Berkeley. Can't make it up. In the same week that you blessed me with the opportunity to be here. So I'm here with you today. The same relationship that was made during COVID during that time, I'm there for lunch for another guy tomorrow for a new brand that he's doing. So it just shows you the power of relationships. And the thing that stick out with me when it comes to this, especially with Matt's book, is that the difference between contacts and contracts is the letter R, and that's for relationships. So the more you build quality relationships and build rapport with the right people, you allow for yourself to be in an incubator, to be able to be protected, and allow for you to be recession-proof. Because at the end of the day, when you got real relationships, if I need something for my hunting dogs, all-American K9, regardless of whatever else is out there, what I'm saying? Because if you can hear it, the Southern drawl like Tim McGraw, being from the South, that, I know quite a bit when it comes to hunting dogs and all that. My family, dad, now not me as much, but my dad, uncles, and family, there's some serious hunters, man. Whether it's East Texas, Arkansas, Alaska, the whole nine, they are.
I'm
so
curious.
You find different things out about people when you're here.
What have you hunted before?
Man, I love a little backstraps, man. So I love a little deer. Love deer, hog. Gotta have hog when you come down there. So, but those are some of the things. My dad and them, they into elk and bear and all that, and that whole nine. I didn't get to that extreme.
Yeah.
But they're serious in it with dogs and the whole nine. I didn't like how the dogs would be a little wacky sometimes because they had them wild because they was out there in the wild at the time.
Yeah.
But it's a new day and age compared to when I grew up and where they have evolved with dogs and stuff now. So, but I got respect for what you all do because it's needed.
I appreciate that. So
yeah, thank you.
You going into, you've been self-publishing. You just mentioned the big R relationships.
Yes.
Who taught you that?
Well, I learned that I had a mentor who would share with me two things. Number one, he shared with me the importance of having a book. I had one mentor who said, Darren, if you want to be an expert or a thought leader, you got to have a book. This was before like YouTube and everything just blew up. It was around and all that.
Yeah.
And you had all the, success gurus telling you this kind of stuff. So it was, first time me hearing something like this at a conference in Houston. So I created the book and I saw the opportunities. But then after I created the book, I had another mentor. If you're going to see something along my journey, you're going to see constant masterminds or me investing in going to events. Just like what we talked about with SLS.
Yeah.
I didn't just start going to events. I had already had the proof in the pudding, so to speak, by beta testing that this worked by creating the quality relationships. So in the infancy stage of me starting my company, I had someone told me something. I was a part of another mastermind with a guy out of Franklin, Tennessee. And he said, Darren, if somebody tell you something 3 times, create a product. He said, I don't care about all the beta testing and all that. You put it out there and just see. You can evolve and make it better along as you go. So I had people coming and Jaron, they kept asking me this, Darren, great book, but I got a story, man. I got something that I want to share. I want to get out to the world. And I was like, I'm going to be honest with you all. It wasn't like I had this lined up in a 10 or 20-year plan. Really, I was like, man, let me create this to get these people out of my face. I mean, just to be totally honest with you. I'll be telling us, like, man, I'm thinking I got to be the next Les Brown or something. Like, man, Les Brown got to be close to 100. And, saying, and shout out to Les, I just did something about that on my social media. But I was thinking, like, I was going to do speaking. But listening to the mentors, because the best advice can come from people that's not in your corner, in your circle. They can look at it from a 30-foot view. So the guy told me that, and I created like a course. Then I created more of a landing page for it. Then I created a full-fledged website on it. And then I started seeing the traction pick up. Then I realized something. This is something I want the audience to pick up on. Your niche or your niche can make you rich. And I know that's seen like, oh, he's just saying a saying or so. No, because I knew business, but in the industry I was in, it was an industry that wasn't sexy. So I was able to come in and be like GE and bring good things to life because I came in with a Southern drawl. Typically the people that was in the industry, they were white Anglo-Saxon Protestant in New York and California. Yeah. If they were someone of my color, typically it was a woman. If not, they were the opposite sexual orientation. So when you come with a guy like he playing football in Northeast Texas, and he come with a Southern drawl, heterosexual male, full of warm blood American, and I'm talking shit and swallowing spit.
They're like, who's this guy?
Who is this guy? Who is this guy? You know what I'm saying? It was like, who is this guy?
What do you know about publishing?
What you know about publishing? The same guy that failed British Lit, by the way. But at the same time, we've been able to work with clients all across the globe because this is the difference. You can find somebody that knows editing or somebody that's a bookworm, but they didn't know business. Mm-hmm. So the unique thing about us, our unique selling point and servicing point is this: B squared, book to business. So when you bring up the Master Apollo full circle, bringing that thing back around, we're able to work with individuals like that. For one, because we can talk their language. The average person who's hiding and just want to send an email and don't want to actually talk to a person in person can't get to a MAT or can't get to a PBD. So that's how we were able to separate ourselves from others in the marketplace because we knew how to take the message that they had and be able to create mass value by putting it into other markets. So it wasn't about $20 book sales. It's about brand awareness, leveraging the resources that they already had with their companies and growing the EBITDA and things like that and whatnot, allowing for them to be a household name.
So so what you just represented or what you just told me was, I mean, it's very true because I mean, been part of working around entrepreneurs and CEOs from all over. I talk to a bunch of people that are very tech savvy, very artistic, and they're all wondering, why can't I scale? Why can't I build a business? Well, it's because you're an artist. You're not a business person. And just because you're in business doesn't mean, just because you have a product doesn't mean it's going to sell. So good news for them is that I tell them this, that it's easier to go from an artist to knowing business. It's much harder to go from business to an artist. That's what I have seen to be true. And so a lot of artists, if you don't, also got to figure out what lane do you want to stay in. Do you want to stay in more creativity or do you want to be more in the business side? Because if you love this, then find a good number 2 who can be that business person, that business minded. Because it's a much harder game to be both.
Yeah, I totally agree. Similar like Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, whatnot. No matter who you are, a Ballmer or whatnot with Gates. So depending on who you are, just know your lane and being able to operate. But I think we need more people that know that it's okay. I think Ballmer's doing pretty good, still being a billionaire, being a number 2.
Yeah.
I think
not a
that's
bad deal,
not
right?
a bad deal at all.
Not a bad deal at all.
Well, to on that, most people, they think they want to be a number 1, but you really don't.
No.
A lot of people can't handle it.
That's right.
They don't know what to actually do, because the biggest thing when you're number 1 is leadership.
That's it.
And that's a skill set that most people never actually learn. They think it's something that's like, oh, I'm good, I can figure this out. And it's like, yeah, you can figure it out, but it's like a hard thing that you learn your whole life. And if you don't get that figured out, you can't be a number 1, because the biggest struggle that I've seen entrepreneurs face as a number 1 is they don't know how to delegate and build a team, and they don't know how to inspire and show people the vision. And so that's what I've seen. So
has there ever been struggles? Because you play a number 1 aspect in different roles. Now I think you're also part of PHP as well, right?
Yeah, I'm doing some business with them.
There's still a level of you have to play a number 1 there too as well in the insurance industry. So being in publishing and doing that, what has been the most challenging part of being a number 1 for you?
Challenging part, and I think Darren just shared it was the importance of continuous growth, and also being able to understand that your pain is your product. And so by understanding your failures and where you have had shortcomings, allowing for those to be lessons, most people find a way to quit in those moments instead of looking at those as stepping stones towards their greatness. This is a part of your story. The stories that we look at, when we look at I'm going to say his name, like a Tyler Perry or something. Oh, he slept in his car. No, but are you really about that life? Of spending 7 years saving up an income tax check, working mediocre job, doing menial tasks, all to see it go to shreds, and your own mom and the people that love you the most are telling you to go get you a good government, or let me say like they say down south, government, not proper English coming in, good government job. But when you have that, can you deal with that? And that's something we look at. Jamie Foxx, his grandmother raised him. He didn't even have his biological mom in his life. And she telling him, coming from Turtle, Texas, go ahead and get you a good government job at the post office. So most people give up on their dreams and goals. I heard this, and this is something that stood out to me when we look at this, Roy, is this, and Jerry, you'll be able to appreciate this too as well. Don't let your why be the reason why you don't move forward towards your dreams and goals and making them a reality. Oh, I'm doing this for my kids. I'm doing this for my wife. I'm doing this for my mom. I'm doing this for my dad. And then when it's time to do the work, the part that's not pleasant, that's not convenient, I can't because it's the weekend. I got to be with my kids.
Can you say that one more time? Don't
allow for your why to be the reason why you don't move forward on your dreams and your goals.
Okay.
Yeah, because you don't want to give up any opportunities. Well, because you want to be at home at a certain time.
Yeah.
But the reason why you're not going to be at home at a certain time is to be able to provide for that why that you said that you was going to provide for, to be able to create a life. I'm not saying that you can't have a balance, but there will be a time where the synergy lines will pendulum will swing, but there will be times that you got to do what you got to do, just period, when it comes to that. So I think those are just some of the things that people got to keep in mind when they're looking at it. So being a number 1 is just this, also know evolution. Being able to continue to move forward for as whatever you're doing. So say, for instance, you shared this, Roy, you can have a skill. So we found out, okay, yeah, I was able to do a book myself. I saw some things that I didn't like that I wish that somebody would have been able to do for me. So my pain became my product, but that's cool. But now I also got to know sales. So you can be great at putting some stuff together, but do you know how to be able to sell and then be a sales leader? So that's a different skill set. So now you might be a sales leader. That's cool. But now you got to become a sales manager. So that's one thing why you see people, even if you look at a job that you ever been on before, you see they'll step up to a lead person or something. They're like, I don't want that. I don't want to deal with the crap of other people. Because it's one thing when you are effective in getting your job done, you are efficient. It's another thing dealing with adults who are acting like they're at the Dallas Zoo.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you think like, I got to tell this 45, 55-year-old person to do the task that they're getting hired, that they were hired to, and that they said that they're going to do and getting compensated for. So now you be a sales manager, which is totally different. How can you not do it for them, but how can you lead them or inspire or persuade them to be able to get the task done and be able to do it? Now we lead from sales manager. Now can you be a CEO? And that's a different skill set. That's the reason why you saw me as far as the sales management piece being at SLS, Sales Leadership Summit. But then I also got with a good friend, mentors Judge Graham and Matt Monero, and I was able to learn from them with Burn the Ships because they taught CEO, how to learn how to be a CEO, because I was feeling kind of awkward because I'm like, man, the KPIs that I had as a salesperson was different as a CEO. As a CEO, it was different as a sales manager than it was as a CEO. So if you're not careful and know the different lanes that you're in and what your role is, you can start wanting to dive and be in the minutia of other things that you were in the past because that's your sweet spot. Yeah. But it might be best for you in the overall company being in another area. And that's something like what Darren shared earlier. That has to be learned, and you got to be willing to continue to reinvent yourself and evolve. And that's where the humble part is. You got to be able to do that. And I believe this too. My grandmother would say this. To be a good chief, you got to be a good Indian. So if you don't know how to follow, very simple. So if you are not willing to learn and grow and follow others, I was able to work for a startup in Houston, a real estate firm, for a guy that I went to college with, but I was able to be humble, wasn't paid at all. So I saw the pain, I saw what it took to be able to build a company, and I served and went in and did the things that I need to do for them, just like I was getting compensated for it. But at the same time, when it fast forward, when it was time for me to do my company, even outside of real estate, I still had those lessons that were transferable. So I knew to be able to withstand tough times, 08, 09, Hurricane Rita, Katrina, things like that allow for me to be able to push forward when a pandemic comes to be more effective in my business.
Speaking of tough times, I don't know, did you say something?
No, go for it.
I was going to say, speaking of tough times, because you're in publishing, where we are in this huge digital age. Yeah. Newspapers are pretty much almost extinct. My in-laws still get them. I'm telling you, that's the people that are still getting newspapers. You could tell, what era they came from.
What is a newspaper?
Whereas they're asking me, what's a podcast? Where do you see? Are we going to be able to still keep books? Is it going to be gone? I mean, what's the next level? Where do you see it going?
Well, it reminds me, and I know we might be especially dating ourselves, it's like the old school multiple choice question. It's D, all the above. Because you would think, because I have people come to me and I'll be on shows or in panel discussions, Darren and they'll say, well, Darren, is anybody even reading paperback and all that? Yes, they are. So you can think that someone is just really digital the whole time, or you think like, oh, it's just the ebooks. But you'll be shocked. Most people still like to mark in their books. And you got the combination. So say, for instance, like me, I like to mark in my books, but guess what? If I'm on a flight, I'm traveling, I'd rather have my iPad or have my app. So now I can just open up Kindle and be able to have, and so I'm not carrying a bunch of stuff in my luggage or whatnot. So it's that kind of component that we're seeing. But I think AI, some people are afraid of AI with it. It just really allows for us to enhance it if you know how to utilize it. The same way that people were afraid of TV at the first, radio, TV. Every time there's something new that's actually disruptive in the marketplace or a new medium, people run from it. But those who go and jump into it at first are able to be. I remember the only regret that I had, I was using Zoom because I was a small business owner and didn't have the budget for it, all the other stuff. So I was maximizing Zoom. The only thing that I regret, Darren, about Zoom is I didn't buy any stock in it.
I think we all did.
I was thinking to myself, I was using Zoom before most people even knew what Zoom was. I was creating podcasts, creating content with Zoom. I did all of that to leverage to create products and services, but I didn't think at all to say, oh, somebody else could use this as the investor part of my mind. So that was a lesson learned too as well that I look back. But I do see it that, of course, things are going to change. It's already changing. It's evolving. But I think it's more of because certain people still want to print it stuff. I think also audio books are really effective too for people. But it's not so clear cut because people like different restaurants. Somebody might like Perry's. Somebody's still gonna like Outback Steakhouse. So there's still a lane for all of them depending on the experience that you want. And I think just being clear on what you're doing will be the best way to be able to move forward.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this. I learned this from my daughter that we found out she's dyslexic, and then come to find out, learning from this dyslexic coach about audio learning. And then I started really picking up on audiobooks. And then ever since I learned about audiobooks, and I had to also speed it up at a certain speed, I actually retain more information that way than I do from reading. As much as I like to be able to read, because I think it would very much help me with my grammar and my vocabulary. I know my wife dedicates her ability to write very well to that, but I fall asleep.
Wait, when you read hardcover books, you fall asleep?
I fall asleep.
Really?
I do. And so I'll listen to the audiobook and I'll be on my bike riding and I will retain pretty much a lot more than if I were to sit down and read a book. It's weird how the brain works.
I get
what
that.
do you think about that, Jaron? What is your preference?
Oh, I love hard copies.
Okay.
I'm not a note taker as much. In the Bible, I do with my wife. We got our notes, but like a regular book, I actually will take it outside the book on a notepad. And
that's good
so
too.
I'm actually, I'm sure you've heard of the book Traction by
yes.
Gino Wickman.
Yes.
This is like my 8th time going through it. And as the position I'm in the CEO role, I got to relearn systems and teams. And I'm like, what better way than starting again with Traction? So I got like this notepad of a ton of notes. And there's specific butts. And a new word out, butts.
Come on now.
I'm going a little southern here.
Trademark that name, man. Trademark.
That's right. There's certain books I won't do Audible, which one is Traction, because I have to take notes with it to learn, because the whole point of that book is you got to implement what it's talking about. And I like to do a lot of like Lord of the Rings style books. I do all those Audible now. I read the books hard copy, but that's when I can get in my mode, put it on like 1.75 on an airplane and just go through stuff.
Right.
But business books and leadership books, I always got to write notes.
Cool.
Yeah.
See, it's different stroke for different folks, man. So that's a good thing about it.
That's true.
I want to wind real quick back
Go ahead.
on comfortability. I feel like I want to hit this with you when you were talking about just like this different skill sets of going up. And I would love to get your thoughts on when you were talking about the number one, the CEO role. You have different roles, and you talked about as a sales leader to a sales manager to a CEO. Can you hit us with your thoughts on why people like to stay in their comfortability zone and they hit a level where they're like, you know what? I'm not going to go any higher because I don't want to go through that pain to learn it. And I probably could, but I'm good. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, man, that's a great question. I think people are not, wherever you have clarity of vision, it leads to acceleration to the known goal. So most people, if you're driving in fog, you slow down. The fog releases and you're able to accelerate. Most people think they want something, but typically they have just regurgitated a dream or goal that a mentor or something that they read or something that they saw on TV or something that's actually been in their subconscious mind that they heard a family member say. So depending on your ethnicity or different area that you come from, you might have people take on a role and say, I'm going to be a doctor because everybody from that particular area or country that they're from think that that's the gold standard, so to speak. But when we look at business in those areas that you just brought up, I think because people aren't clear and then they get in the comfort zone. I heard a mentor share this with me. He said, Darren, what's the enemy to someone being a millionaire? I said, I don't know, sir. He said 500,000.
500,000.
Yeah.
Specific number. Why?
Yeah, why? Because they thought that they wanted to be a millionaire, but all of a sudden at 500,000, a lot of the bad debt is paid off. The home that you want, you're able to afford.
Yep.
All of a sudden you start realizing, man, do I really want to do like what Jerry and them doing? Do I really want to keep grinding like I'm doing? Kids doing pretty good, taking a few cruises, chilling with the wife, able to go see the in-laws, able to kick it, got a nice little minivan and also a little Jeep or something to off-road on. I mean, I'm living a life, man, And so now all of a sudden, comfort becomes the enemy to great. See? And so that's what hinders people from going to the next level, because I also had a good friend of mine that he realized, he said this to himself. He said, he said, I had on my vision board that I want to be a billionaire. He said, I do not want to be a billionaire. He was able to be clear by going to a mastermind he was a part of. He said, you know what? I'm doing good if I get, 10 million. I'm doing 10 million. He's already a millionaire, but he's saying I'm doing 10 million, I'm good. But I'm glad that he know that, because more people need to have clarity, because they're just having these lofty goals. Because for him, and he shared this, he said, I'm not willing to go through the pain of what it would take to be a billionaire. But at least he's clear on that. And I think the issue that we have with people is this, and Roy and Jaron, I want y'all to hear this out clear, and for those who are listening to this, the problem lies when you have people who want something without making a sacrifice. So I want what Roy and Jaron has. I want what Darren has, but I'm not willing to get up for it. But because I think that I just live in the United States of America, I think that it's owed to me. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what the crowd. Well, everybody got a story, man. But if you think that you're entitled, and that's the issue that we have right now, you have so many people that feel that they're entitled to this home, this neighborhood, this many cars, this trip, but you really just have the opportunity to bring it into existence. And I think that's the disconnect that people have. They think that they should just be given the American dream and not understand that's an opportunity to go. But you have the opportunity to win, but you also have the opportunity to lose.
Yeah. I'm
that just made me very emotional here.
Dude, it's so funny, because I actually felt like the Lord told me to ask you that specific question, and I can see how it hit him, and it hit me in a way that it hasn't hit me before. And I'm going to share this with you, because this is one of my biggest struggles right now. Is every day I pray to God, and like I know that He's given me to take over All American Canine, and the struggles that I have to go through right now,
that's right,
are insane, and the sacrifice that I have to lay down, and no one sees it but
that's
really
it.
me. And I'm like, am I willing to do the things that it's going to take to go build $100 million company? Because that's what has been put in my heart.
That's right.
That's what I want to do. And it's funny, because it's not for the money. It has nothing to do with the money. That's not.
Yeah.
Well, that's not what's going to stop me. The thing that's going to stop me is the whole comfortability of like, am I going to go do what God said I'm going to do, or am I going to get comfortable when I hit the 10 million mark? Because, I got the minivan, like you said, and I got the, cruising. But the thing that I know is I'm like, that doesn't drive me at all. I don't get excited about that. And the thing though is the struggle that I'm learning every day is every day I keep going, I can take it another day.
That's it.
And then the thing where I have to go back to the source. I'm like, God, is this the mission? Because it's so freaking hard right now. Are you sure this is what you want me to do? And it's funny, because this is what I'm saying. Like, everybody wants to be this number one and go get this and make a $10 million company or $100 million. And it's like, I'm like in this position, and I'm like, I know I'm going there, and I'm like, I want to go get it because I know that's what the Lord put in my heart. And I'm struggling because it's so freaking hard. And I'm like, every day I'm like, I'm making a choice, and I feel like the enemy's trying to get me to quit.
That's it.
And that's my battle that I go through every day. And it's really hard, man.
That's it.
But the way you articulated it,
it
hit me in such a good way and convicted me, because you said, what is your why? And like, part of my why is, it's interesting you said about like your kids and your stuff, and I'm like, no, I'm like, I've said that before and I didn't mean it. Why do I want to go blow up this company? It's because it makes the best version of me, so then I can be the best version for my family and my friends.
There you go.
Because I've used I want to say excuse, but it's not an excuse. I've been like, I'm doing this for my wife and my kids. But to your point, well, then I'm on the weekends, like I'm hanging out with them completely, and I'm neglecting my business. And so there is this kind of like choice of like, what am I doing, and why do I get up in the morning? And it is partly for them. Don't get me wrong. Like, it really is.
That's it.
But I've learned that I have to take care of me first to actually be the best version for them. And I've neglected that. I'm 36 years old. For 35 years of my whole life, I mean, you don't do anything when you're like 2 or 3, but like my whole life, I've
He's
always
been hustling since he was 3 years old.
Actually, dude, I've been weeding, or it's funny, picking up vinyl at my dad's sign shop since 3 with a nail. Another story. But like, it hit me. I had this revelation as I'm praying in the last 30 days, Darren. Like, I have a crazy story recently, but I'm not going to get into it. But I moved back to Minnesota for financial reasons.
Okay.
And I'm kind of traveling back and forth to Dallas. And the Lord literally hit me, and He's like, you have to put you first right now. You have literally tried to take care of every person around you for the last 4 years of your life, every person that you run into. and you are no good to them because now you are in a financial problem. You're not mentally good. You're just not there. So how do you go help them? And so when I took this business over, he's like, this is literally like the gas in the car to go get what I actually want you to go do. This has nothing to do with your fulfillment in life is to go build $100 million business. This is just a tool I've been giving you to go do what actually in the kingdom that you're going to go do, Jaron. And so in the last 30 days, dude, I'm just getting goosebumps because I finally figured out why I'm doing what I'm doing. I didn't know why. I lied to myself.
That's it.
And I wanted to say, hey, I'm doing it for my kids. I'm doing this so I look good for people. I'm like, hey, I'm sacrificing for my friends. I'm doing this. I'm like, no. Actually, I'm doing this because this is literally what God put on my heart. And I want to go be a freaking beast in his kingdom. And like, that's what I'm doing.
Come on now.
And I didn't know it.
Go.
Come on now.
Hey, and Jaron's going to be running for president soon. So.
Nah, that has definitely not been put on my heart.
You have my vote, Jaron. Come on now. But I think that what you are sharing, for those who are here and who are listening to this podcast, is not by accident that you're listening. But I think that what Roy and Jaron is sharing with us, and even what I'm bringing to the table, is you have to have that particular thing figured out.
Yeah.
And some people are wondering, like, why? But that was the real reason. So that's why we got to make sure that we're not surface level with it. We got to do some fracking. We got to go deeper when it comes to it, because now you start really getting clarity. Oh, okay. Oh, I thought that was the reason. No, the real reason that Jaron just shared with us is because the best version of me is the best husband. No, let's stop it. The best version of me is the best relationship with me, with God. Then it comes with my wife. Then it comes with my children. Then it comes with my community and the rest of the family and my business and things like that. Yeah. But if I don't have that in alignment, then everything else is off. So I think that's the thing that people are finding. So they're justifying it, and you're being, I call it professional development junkies. So you're hopping from one event, one conference, one podcast, this, that, whatever. But until you get clear about what it is that you're really called to do, then that allows for you to do it. Because when you have that hairy, audacious goal, a big, hairy, audacious goal, and the thing that you start doing is you got to move different. You got to get new habits. You got to do things that you don't want to do. And so now all of a sudden you start having more bandwidth, and then you realize, wow, the key to this is reaching my full potential. What does that look like, reaching my full potential? Because as long as we keep lowering the standard, we'll never have the income or impact generating activities that will intersect or whatnot with income and also with impact to help the people that we're called to help.
Yep.
One of the things that I've really started to live by is I was asking God, this is cool. I'm doing a reset in my life, right? I'm in Minnesota. Every morning I wake up, me and my wife go on a walk. We come in, we read a chapter of the Bible together, and then we pray together.
Awesome.
And so like we're getting really intentional on what's important, and then I get to business.
Come on
and
now.
so like I'm struggling as financially as I've ever been, and I'm like, you know what? If we're gonna do this, it's completely on the Lord and gonna do it by faith. Like that's the only way this is gonna work, no more on my strength. So I said, let's just do everything backwards from the world, and we're gonna put God first, then the wife, and then the kids, and then the business.
That's it.
And if I'm getting a business call in the middle of a meeting, I was like, I don't care. Like, I'm just gonna take, if it's my wife, I'm gonna take the call finally. Like, I haven't lived like that. That's what I was saying. Like, I'm seeing my why different, and it's actually making me more of a family man. But the thing I wanted to hit too is like on the why is it's so important. And so like if you ask somebody, why are you here? Most people don't know. And I took a while to figure this out. And so like my why is to inspire people to fulfill the destiny God created you for. So if I am not inspiring you to fulfill who God created you to be, I am not doing what I'm supposed to do with you right now. I'm not. I'm out of alignment. And so if I'm not doing that in my business and I have people in here, I'm not doing it. And like, it doesn't make sense. And so I'm really like learning how to partner with people and how to like really like ask God, who do I partner with? Who do I bring in? How do I impact people? How am I going to inspire people? And like, it doesn't change the fact of the hardship and the struggle is still there.
That's it.
But the fulfillment and the joy is tenfold than I've ever had. And I'm in the most struggling financially pain I've ever been in the last 30 days, but I'm at like a high joy and peace, and it makes no sense at all.
Peace that transcends all understanding. Yeah. That's it.
So that's, I mean, obviously, I think we have at a client here for you to publish the next book here. But
Actually, it's my wife's book. But.
Your wife's book. But you don't strike me as a guy that doesn't like you were saying earlier. You have the whatever on top, and then you just do the fracking. You get below the surface. Is that part of your process before understanding? Yes, I want to work on. I see that there's a potential here with this person, because I'm pretty sure that, I mean, anyone, there are pretty much millions of people that I have a book idea, but then you also got to be careful with your time. Like, hey, nope, you probably turn away a bunch of people.
Yes. So great question. So when you look at it, how we evaluate it, number one is I want to know your why. And I know it's like, man, Darren, that's cliche. I want to know why you're doing it, because to get the book done, no matter how, just like what you just alluded to, at the end of the day, two things are going to take to get the book done. At the end of the day, no matter how they hit, oh, I got an amazing story, and that's great. That's great. And I believe that.
I'm pretty sure you do.
You know what I'm saying? We do.
Yeah.
But this is the catch. Time and treasure dictates if you get a book done. So if you're not willing to invest your time to get the book done, and if you're not willing to invest the treasure, your money to get the book done, then you'll never get a book done.
That's a great sales tactic. Time and treasure.
Time and
That's
treasure.
such a nice way of
because
saying.
I got entrepreneurs and business owners that the budget is not an issue, but time. See, because you can deceive yourself into thinking I'm busy. Really, but you're really secretly afraid of what is going to open up when you release this book. You're going to have to be vulnerable, or you're going to have to share stuff, or the fear of, can I actually even do this? See, but I don't want to let anybody know that, because I got all these other accolades and all these other reports, and you see the business and the team that I have. But at the end of the day, this can be your Achilles heel. Why? Because I can't control this. I know my area, I know my industry, I know my craft, but this right here is outside of my control. And you have people that's control freaks, so when they relinquish control, all of a sudden fear can creep in. So they can cover it up, they can camouflage it. So that's what we like to help assist people when it comes to that. So even if they have the monetary means, we share that with them at the beginning, like, hey, by the way, time and treasure. Are you committed before we don't want any money from you at all. Are you committed for us the time to get it done? And we're real frank when we ask that. We're real clear up front. And then people are like, yeah, I can do it. Because we're getting that commitment, and we're able to come back to them later on and push back. Oh, I got to fly. Okay, that's cool. But you remember, you gave us permission to coach you. You gave us permission to push back. So is this something going to be consistently going on, or is this something that you're going to step up to the plate?
Set an expectation from the very beginning.
There you go.
You got to.
Got to.
All right, so I got a question. So my wife is writing 3 books right now.
Okay, cool.
So I just want to see how the process works with your business and what you do, and just kind of dive in. Because here's where we're at. So she's done book 1.
Okay.
And she's had friends edit it, but not like a professional editor.
Okay.
She's almost done with book 2 and has the whole book 3 kind of just like laid out, right?
Okay.
And so she started an Instagram page of just like doing she's an artist too, and she creates really cool scenes, and she just does little clippets. And so she wanted to self-publish. We have no idea I know a lot of business stuff. I don't know nothing about publishing a book. And so I said, like, I get business ideas, and I'm like, I know, dude, but like, first you got to figure out how the heck you actually like properly publish stuff, and then we can figure out how to market it. And so she's like, I have no idea. And so she wrote this story, and it's for basically more like teenage kids.
Okay.
And it's like a mix between Pilgrim's Progress and Chronicles of Narnia, as I was telling you. And so she's looking to self-publish, and here's the avenues we've looked at. She talked to someone that's maybe what you're doing. You help out, like you pay them an X amount of money, they come up with a plan, and then you got to have some marketing budget, and they go do something. Then she looked like there's an Amazon route to self-publish, and you can pay whatever, and they can print books, and you just market towards there. And she has no idea what she should do based on the style of her book, because no one knows her. Like, what is your advice to someone that's like right there? What would you do?
Well, number one, I would start, congratulations to her for getting it done, because I think that's important. Some people, they'll stifle the process or stay stagnant because they don't know why. So by her doing what she can do is something that I always advise anybody who's looking at doing it. Take the steps first, and then you can figure out, you get more on your way than you do from when you start. So just moving forward is the number one thing. But the other thing that I would say when it comes to what she is looking at doing is just being clear on, okay, what do I want the end result to be? So what I mean by that is, am I caught up on wanting to sell 100,000 copies? Or is this more of an heirloom? Is this something that I just want to put out because I just want to use my creativity because I feel led to put this out? The next thing is that, okay, if I want to monetize it, okay, what is the message to what cohort or what group or demographic, and why would they invest in that particular product? So when I'm looking at those things, so say for instance, we're talking about your wife as a championship coach that we work with. He had just won a championship with a ladies basketball team in college. He had a leadership book that he had, but then he had another idea that he hadn't even finished up, whatnot, about his process of when the program was basically like the Bad News Bears or whatnot, and he was able to turn it around. So we told him when we talked to him, it was like, hey, we know, but this is the thing that I love about what we do. Because most people, because he had the finances for it, they wouldn't even say anything. Oh, you want this book? That's what we're going to give to you. But that's why our clients love to work with us, because we give them we're true, we're authentic to them. It's like, hey, I know you want to do this book, but this is not the book for right now. The leadership book is cool. How often do people win national championships?
Very rare, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So carpe diem, seize the day, buddy. So what we're going to do is, you just won this. So by the time they have the ring ceremony in the fall, let's create this book that's not even completed yet. We did From Chumps to Champs, and we took that. So he was able to embody the team. So all the free press, all the local things that were going on, he was able to share his book, and he was able to have the book lunch at the ring ceremony. He was able to capitalize on that opportunity. So my thing is you got to make sure that you have strategy behind it. So if someone is creating something, I would say, hey, you might want to relook at it, because if monetary means, now you got people that'll do this too. So Darren, they'll say, oh, you know, I just want to put it out and Roy, because it's on my heart, because of God. And then they make the investment. Then they'll say, but at the end of the day, Darren, I'm really trying to see how many sales I need to have. Well, I thought it was for the Lord. Well, I thought it was for your heavenly Father. I thought it was just because you was doing something for God. You know, that's what you was doing it for. It wasn't about the money, but now you're asking about $20 book sales. So that's something. So you have to rather actually unlearn some of the things, because there are people who are doing things and you got in your mind that I need to do what they did, but you're not understanding that they wasted everybody's Saturday at that book signing at Barnes and Nobles, and all of a sudden you got a little poodle licking your toes, and now all of a sudden somebody spilled a frappe on your book, and you wasted everybody's Saturday. It's not effective. So you got to deal with people too who already have come up in their mind, because they've seen so many other people do it. So it can be where normalcy can be dysfunction. See? So now you got people that got to unlearn, because they think, well, Karen at the church in my small group, and she did this. Well, Karen books suck, and they didn't even sell anything.
Sorry, Karen.
Sorry,
Karen.
Sorry, Karen. You know I love you, baby. You know what I'm saying? With the love
We
of Christ.
appreciate you.
We appreciate you. We thank God for you. But you got to deal with unlearning that. So we make sure before they start, it's just saying, okay, at the end of the day, what makes you comfortable? And this is what we do for people who might not even be our clients, and they actually refer people, and we get a lot of deals done. We get clear and say, okay, what do you really want to do out of this book? Like, really, like if your budget is whatever it is right now, or if you got to do this yourself, that we'll say, hey, I would take this, do this. And even if you go to Amazon route or something, this is what people don't tell people, and I think this will be helpful for the audience. I know they tell you that you can just upload it, but really you can't. You got to make sure that the measurements, that the book is tailored the right way, the whole nine. You can have something that looks great on your computer, on your laptop that you did, but it's not going to actually be sustainable when you actually go to print. That's something else that people don't know. So you have people invest in, I call it what they have, BR, book remorse. So you go, oh, I'm going on these different sites, I'm getting this and then look, okay, well, I can email it, I can look at it on my phone, but when they go to print, it's not what it looks like. So that's where the experts come in. But how would you know if you've never done a book before?
Yeah.
You don't have the resources, or you don't have the machinery to be able to know if something's valid or not. You just go and buy an eye test, and you can hinder. So the first thing I would say, she's a little bit further because it's a children's book. She already knows that it's teens, so she will move forward with just doing that, and it would just be more of, what does she want to invest? What is the end goal of it? And then you would extract it. So let me use this example before we move on. Had two different authors doing children's books, okay? But one was talking about a situation with his brother who had special needs. So we was able to work with him and say, okay, this is not, well, what about marketing? What about Instagram and all that? No, don't need that. This is gold right here, just for this particular podcast. We focused on, no, your audience, you don't need to have a budget for them because that's not your audience. Your audience is Scottish Rite. Your audience is Ronald McDonald's house.
Yeah.
So you need to get with those people,
Yeah.
children's hospitals, and also children doctors or whatnot, pediatricians. That's your audience. See, and that's the aha moment that you gotta have.
I just
'Cause
had
they're the
aha for
distributor.
this book.
There you go.
They're the people that
They're
will.
the ones who they are the ones who are the gatekeepers to the people that you need to get in contact with. So instead of you selling $25 books individually, why don't us think different and sell a bulk to actual people who house them? And that's what you want to look at.
Just why you sell cereal to kids. You
Exactly.
don't sell it to the parents because the
There
kids
you go.
will distribute the idea
Okay.
or the want to the parents.
Or you sell it to an institution. So
Institution.
if you sell it to an institution, you were able to close one person that was able to get rid of 20,000 some books.
You gave me a good idea.
So,
I'm gonna share it offline.
yeah.
So I was thinking about.
Let me know if it's a good one. I got one.
I was thinking. You brought up book remorse,
Yeah.
and it made me think about even just people in business. Books and business is just like they run very similar because you have to have written several crappy books in order to get to the book that's going to actually take off. Where you have to have gone through several different bad business options or decisions to get to that one
That's it.
that's going to take off.
Yeah.
So do you, I mean, is that something you also coach people on when they get in? Like, hey, this is your first book, you know, and most likely you don't say this up to them, obviously, but your mind, you're thinking like it's gonna suck. But if you don't give up, you're gonna run into that where you're gonna have that golden book that just takes you to that next level.
Yeah, I would say that your book can suck if you're doing it by yourself, but also you cut the learning curve by getting experts in your
That's
corner.
right. Yeah, and I didn't take that into account.
So
yeah, go
that's
ahead.
it. So if you're doing it solo, then yes, it's gonna suck and be crappy. But that's why you hire and bring on a team and bring experts on. So say for instance, when we're working with someone say for instance, let's use Matt. Matt had an experience beforehand. It was over 12 years he had been looking at getting the book done. He actually had a book he was doing, a Christian publishing company that he was working with, actually was going to release his book and it wasn't even done. He didn't like what they were doing with it. So they basically, kind of strong-armed him and said, well, we're going to release the book regardless if you like it or not. And so those are some of the things you got to watch out too with who you're doing business with, because it can seem like a sweet deal, but all of a sudden they wasn't. So he had to actually pay them to get the rights of the book just so they wouldn't publish it.
Oh gosh.
Wow. So then when we're at SLS, we're at Breakers, going around the table, I'm sharing what I do. A few people down, he's at the same table for brunch. He shares, Darren, I've been working on the book for 12 years, man. Let's get together and partner and do something. I'm just like, that's God. But when we worked with him, his book was able to actually to be a success. What we do is tailor and help people understand what success actually looks like. So it's like, you don't have Trump budget. You don't have Michelle Obama budget. You weren't married to the leader of the free world. So why are you putting yourself on that lane? You don't even have $200 to promote with. So why are you creating this false narrative when you could be like, hey, I know I actually transformed someone's life. And also the other process is this, and I know that you all appreciate this. Darren and Roy, you'll appreciate this. It's not one, man, running a business and doing books are just like brushing your teeth, bro. You don't say, well, I'm brushing my teeth since 1999, and so, I don't have to brush them again now. Like, bro, you still got to brush your teeth. And that's how it is when it comes to having an effective book. People think that they want to be on autopilot. Like, they think that passive income. No, you got to actually put some action behind some things to have it come in the way that you want it to have. And that's the same way that people get caught up in the misconception that they have with a book. They just think, okay, if I just do this, and it's like, alakazam, this is going to happen, and the book is just going to run by itself. No, the book is going to be just like what you talked about beforehand. You're going to might have a signing out, but also you're going to need to be in front of a new market the next year or the next month. Or you're going to have to do something different. You'll be able to release at different times. I might release the hard copy or the paperback. Then I don't put the ebook out immediately. Then to keep relevance, I might take a few months, 60 days later, then release, all of a sudden we got the ebook. Okay. Now, the audiobook is available. I'm continuing to find different ways to give them Tulsa warmed over to allow for it to be a new experience for the people that I'm dealing with. But if you're not have emotional intelligence, just like someone doing the stock market, as soon as they see it go down, all of a sudden they sell everything.
Yep. Get very emotional.
And they get emotional. And that's the same way that people do with books. They come in with a preconceived notion. They want to hit a crypto craze. They just want it just to blow up and be J.K. Rowling's or whatnot. And when they don't know that it's work that goes behind that to stay consistently for us having success, just like it is with your business. You can't just say, oh, I had a great quarter or a great month and think that you can just lay back and think the company's going to run by itself. It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work like that way at all. Dude, at all. Like the whole brushing the teeth analogy is great because it's the simplest thing that you can come up with.
That's it.
It's the simplest. You have to just keep going. So we've been almost going an hour, which is crazy. I feel like it's been 20 minutes.
I know. I was like looking at the time.
I want to dive into one last topic with you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Before we go,
Okay.
and just ask you a really simple question. And I'm actually really excited for this because I feel like it's going to be a good one. But how has Jesus impacted your life and then into business?
Wow. Well, number one, Jesus impacted my life because because it's given me focus, given me clarity, also disciplines. So you can't put new wine in old skins. Mm-hmm. So being able to have constant another level of growth. But I think the main thing that I've seen for us, the situation with Jesus has been really helpful with me, is understanding what I started off with, opportunity. Like, so much was invested for me to have this thing called life. Life was given for me to have life. So who am I to allow the accuser of the brethren to dictate and keep me from the path and the destiny that God has for me? So even if I have failure or even if I fall, if I have an issue, the thing is that I have help. So the thing is if I continue to move and press forward, I'm going to be able to attain the goals. But I also have seen when we talk about misconceptions, like we talked about the book, and just like what you alluded to earlier, Jaron, but let's just look at it for what it is. Your pain is your product, but your pain leads to your promotion. Mm-hmm. I think that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego would have really loved to not have to be thrown in the fiery furnace before, but it led to their promotion. So even though they were in a foreign land, even though their age didn't hinder them from being promoted, even though they was in a foreign land. The same thing, it took the locked jaws of a lions or whatnot to be able to allow Daniel to be promoted as well. And look how many attacks and coups that was brought up to be able to take him off being the right hand. So if we look at Joseph and others, so how do we think that we're going to be able to forfeit our own journey because that's a part of the process? So when I start understanding the process and know that when I'm having challenges or I'm having trials and tribulations, that actually I'm closer to my breakthrough. So these are some of the things that I would just say that I want to just leave the audience with or whatnot, as far as just the mindset that you want to have when you look at this. Number one, you want to have a biblical mindset. Then you also want to make sure that outside a biblical mindset, you want to have a believer's mindset, because you got to believe. You make your way prosperous, but it's according to what you believe. So if Roy doesn't believe it, Jaron doesn't believe it, if Darren believes it, that's all that matters to God, because it's impossible to please him without faith. And so many of us are trying to do all these different things, but we're not believing, so we're not able to have that increase. So when we look at the biblical, we look at the believing, then also we got to have a battlefield mindset. So a battlefield mindset is knowing that, hey, the battle is here. The race is not given to the swift nor the strong, but to the one who endured to the end. So I got to understand that I can't grow weary in well-doing. So even though I'm tired, even though I don't feel like it, I got to press towards the high calling. So also when we look at that, we look at the biblical, we look at the believer, we look at the battlefield mindset. We also got to have number 4, we got to have a breakthrough mindset. We got to understand that God has dispatched angels and put people on our path and lead to our prosperity. When it says that they're going to have men and women given to our bosom. So God is not going to physically bring it down to us. He's going to give us favor, people who like us, people who see what we're doing, see the work ethic that we have, and we build that rapport with them so he can pour into us. But we got to be willing to go out there and do the things to be able to get there. And so when you look at all of those things that we just brought up and you start understanding them, and then when you start looking at it, then it gives you the last one, and that's boldness mindset. So then you got to ask yourself, do I see myself as a grasshopper, or do I see myself as well able to take the land? Because God doesn't move on the need. because he said the poor will be with you always. He doesn't move on the need because he knows what we need before we pray. But he still tells us that asking is a part of the kingdom dynamics and process, the standard operating procedure for my business owners out there. So we got to still follow the process because it shows that that's faith. So when we understand those things that we just brought up, it allows for us to be able to move forward. So that's how God has played a critical role in my life, knowing that if I'm willing to get out here on this, I call it this exercise regimen of faith, business allows for you to be able to trust God at another level. But that's why there's no cap or no limit to what God can do through us for its impact when we jump into entrepreneurship, because we're not capped. Nobody can tell us no, but we got to be willing to trust him at another level to go to another level.
Man, Darren, probably one of my favorite podcasts here, man. I'm really enjoying. Honestly, I want us to go a little longer, but I mean, I know you got things to do, and we got to get to other things. We will be having him back on, just so you know, guys. This is part 1 of maybe part 50. Yeah. So, Darren, my man, how can people find you?
Well, you can find us at Self-Published, the letter N as in Nancy. Don't use proper English. Can you hear me talking? We don't use proper English. I'm sorry. I'm not the one editing the book. So the letter N as in Nancy, not I-N or I-N-G. You'll never find us. So Self-Published, the letter N, 30, the actual numbers, 30 days, D-A-Y-S. You can find us on Instagram, social media, YouTube, things like that too as well. And also we're having a lunch, I'm sharing it here with the AAC family, is that we have the Books and Business podcast that are actually being launched in July. And I hope to have you individuals, you Jaron and you Roy, be able to be guests on that show too as well, that people can find us too. But you'll be able to go to the Self-Publish in 30 days on all platforms to be able to find us, or just look up Darren, D-A-R-R-E-N, M as in Monday, Palmer, and you'll be able to find me on all platforms.
Oh, my man. Well, thank you so much
for your time.
Dude,
man.
Really appreciate it, and I loved how you ended it and shared that story about what God impacted in your life.
Yes, guys, if you like this, please subscribe. We are going to be doing a lot more of these things, getting deeper in these conversations. It's not going to just be one-sided. We're going to have all kinds, and that's what we enjoy, being able to give people the opportunity to be able to make up their own mindset. So hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys next time.